Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Search, Deploy, Commit. This is Jack, and I'm here with the one and only creator of Warzone, Fizzer. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been listening to your podcast. I think you do a great job with it. I like the vibe.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, it's been something we've been wanting to have you on for a little bit, and glad we could put it together. Everybody's busy, and I'm sure you are as well. So I like to kind of start things off at the beginning of the interview, kind of getting into the beginning of the game itself, especially for you, obviously, as the maker of the game. There's lots of questions, but I think this is a good place to start is how did you come about, making Warzone or at the time, probably was called something different, but.
Yeah, it was called Warlight when it launched. But yeah, so this is way back in 2008. I was invited some Risk game with the coworkers that I was working at the company at the time. And we all got really into it. We were all playing online and I liked the game, but I didn't like their implementation of it. Like the one I was playing at the time was really primitive and the interface kind of sucked. And the whole time I was playing it, I was just frustrated with the interface. And I'm just thinking like, hey, I could do so much better. And so one day I did, and I just started working on it. And when I started working on this game, I thought I was really just going to play a few games with my friends and then move on to something different. But once I did that, I had so much fun working on it. I just kept adding to it and kept adding a bunch of features and a whole bunch of ideas for things I wanted to add. And my friends invited their friends and it just kept growing. And that's basically just been it. I just keep adding to it and it just keeps growing. That's how we got to where we are today.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, and obviously I was there for your most recent AMA, and I just really appreciated, how open you are to answering questions, and you got a little bit into, everything that you've done has really just been based on, something you had an idea for or something that you were passionate about for the next steps for the game. Staying sort of on the subject of when you started making it, what was the hardest part of the development for you when you started making the game? Like, what was the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the things is when I first started the game, actually what kind of prompted me to start it too is this new product had just come out called Silverlight. I don't know if you remember that, but it was basically a Microsoft competitor to Flash. So it was like a browser plugin.
Sure.
And I first started making the game in Silverlight. That's kind of where the original name got its name. Warlight was War in Silverlight.
Gotcha.
So the first big challenge I had to face was when I decided I wanted to make this more of a big, broadly available thing. It couldn't be in Silverlight. I mean, that was painfully obvious to me at the time. Silverlight was kind of dying. And so the biggest challenge I had was porting the game from one language to another, which ended up porting it to Flash, which was a fine decision at the time. But then, of course, we all know how that ended. I ended up having to port it again from Flash when Flash died. But now it's in pure JavaScript, so that's not going to go anywhere.
Wow. So porting it so you had to port it at least 2 or 3 times, it seems like.
Yeah, the game's been rewritten twice now.
Wow. Jeez,
but that's actually a good thing because each time you rewrite it, the product gets better. And
gotcha.
So it is in a much better place now than it was back in the early days.
That's cool. I think sort of for myself, I wanted to make sure I was answering or asking good questions because I know there's people that have played this game a lot longer than me. But there's like some things that just kind of I just thought of that maybe you've answered in the past or maybe you haven't. But, some of the things that came to my mind was, I know you're a one-man show. For some reason, I had this thought of what happens like if you were to pass on unexpectedly? Would Warzone just die, or do you have things in place? I mean, do you consider selling the game in the future? I just these things that I wanted to ask. Sort of, maybe you can't answer, but
yeah, I certainly have no plans of selling it. If I were to die, I hope somebody else would pick it up. Hopefully if I die, I have an advanced warning and I can
right. Of course.
If I could find someone
God
that
forbid,
wants to take if I can find someone that would take it up, I would just give it to them.
Sure.
If I couldn't, I would just open source it and just publish it all and let anybody do with it what they want. I don't have any plans on selling it. I love working on it. I hope to work on it the rest of my life. This is not kind of a a quick flash in the pan type thing for me. This is something that
Mm,
I love working on, and I've been fortunate enough to make it my full time job. And if I can continue working on the rest of my life, I'll be happy with that.
that's great. I think, and obviously, the lawsuit that's going on right now is a big part of your life, probably to some degree. And then obviously, like you answered in the AMA recently, the judge put his everything on hold, and it's just been a lot. But what's something that you've learned through that process of all that's been going on? Maybe something you didn't know before, or
Well, I
through the
certainly
whole
learned a
experience.
lot about the legal process. But yeah, it was a big
Mm,
part of my life back when I first got sued because
sure,
I had to scramble and figure out what everything I was going to do about that. Thankfully, since then, it's just been kind of automatic. The lawyers do most of the work, and it's on pause now, so literally nothing's happening. So it's
sure.
kind of just a waiting game now. But yeah, it's been I'm not a legal expert. That's never an area I
Mm,
never wanted to be in. I never wanted to be in a lawsuit to begin with. I like making games. If I had my
yeah,
choice, I would focus all my time on that. I don't want to have to deal with legal stuff and lawyers and all that kind of stuff and contracts and all that kind of stuff. That's not the fun part of the job for me, but we all got to do parts of the job we don't like.
right, right, of course. So, we kind of talked about a couple of things that are going on. Obviously, I think the one big thing, the mind-blowing update that everybody was so excited to hear about, you released this new information and people can actually get their hands on it with 3D Warzone. What are some of the things? I know you maybe reviewed in the AMA, but what are some of the things that you're really excited for with this update?
Yeah, so 3D maps is just kind of it's been the big feature lately. It's all about just making the game look a little nicer and giving some more
Hmm.
depth to it, making it instead of just being a flat map, it'll the
Right.
territories will just pop out a little bit, extrude and give some depth. And I'm also giving the ability to map makers to define like hills and mountains and some more textures and stuff on the map to make them look nicer. It's really just about the main map rendering engine that Warzone uses really hasn't changed since 2008. Like, I don't think I've
Mm.
ever added a feature to it. I mean, okay, bonus links was a feature that came out, I think, like 6 months after the
Okay.
game came out, also back in 2008. Since bonus links were added, nothing's really been added to the main game, which is
Gotcha.
kind of a shame. That's kind of what I do when I'm determining a new feature is I look at the parts of the game that maybe haven't gotten much love and need some refurbishment. And so the main map rendering code is getting its day in the sun.
Nice. Well, I think it's really awesome to see all of the opportunities and ways that people can be even more creative now with the tools that you're giving them, and I think that's such a great part of what makes Warzone so unique.
Yeah,
Uh, with
absolutely.
everything that you give to the creators for the game.
I love enabling players to do their own, whether it's making maps or even making templates or making their own levels. That's kind of the mantra of what Warzone's about. It's I've created what I call a customizable engine, and then players can come in and make it whatever they want, and that's kind of a double edged sword because
Hmm.
they can make something great and they can also make something terrible. I'm sure we've all seen some terrible
Sure.
maps or levels or things that exist, but as long as there's a good filtering mechanism, we can have the good stuff bubble to the top. And I think that's part, and just the community in general and all the stuff they've created is part of what makes this game so great. And I'm really appreciative to the community for that.
That's awesome, and I think you know that kind of goes into something that I learned on your last AMA, which is user voice. I don't know how I didn't hear about it or find it before,
Mm.
but I figured I would ask, or maybe if you could even just share a little bit for people maybe that are new to the game or have played the game and just never found it. Tell us a little bit about user voice and how that uh, helps us communicate with yourself for things that work inside of Warzone.
Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing from the community, and the thing I hear most often from the community is feature requests. Like people mail me and they want to be able to do X or Y or Z, and that's
Yeah.
great to hear. It's just kind of hard to keep it all organized, right? Because if I'm
Mm,
getting 100 mails a day, I don't get 100 mails a day, but maybe if I get,
sure.
I think if user voice didn't exist, I might get 100 mails a day. So, that's kind of overwhelming. It's too much for me to really sort through and filter through and see. So, user voice is a way where people can submit an idea, then other people can vote on them. And that's really useful for me for understanding what the community really wants because it allows, to categorize and put into votes rather than having me get 100 mails and try to sort through how many of
Yeah.
them map to what feature requests. The community can basically do that on their own, where they can make the ideas and then vote for them. And then I can just go in and look at the top ideas. And so it's really useful for me. And I definitely use that when I'm deciding what features to add. I look at how many votes that feature has. That's one point of input. It's not the only thing that goes to determine what happens next, but it is a source of, it influences the decision.
That's excellent. Yeah, and I figured I'd give you an opportunity to sort of share that again, because I thought that was a really good piece that you shared in one of your last AMAs. What is something, beyond maybe user voice or some of the things we've already talked about, that a lot of players wouldn't know that you would want them to know?
It's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably come up with a bunch of ideas if I thought about it longer. I mean, I know I mentioned in the AMA yesterday, or no, it wasn't yesterday, it was a few days ago, but there's a feature called tabs in the Unity app. So if you're on iOS or Android, you can have tabs. I don't know if a lot of people know about that feature. You can go in the settings and enable it. It is a member-only feature, so you have to be a member. But if you have it, it allows you to have different pages of the app open simultaneously, and you can kind of switch between them. That's a feature I'm not sure many people know about. I don't hear many people talking about that. I think it's really useful, and I don't see many people talking about it. So I feel like people don't know. It's kind of buried in the settings, admittedly.
Sure.
Let's see. What
but
else
it's a useful feature.
Yeah, it's useful. I don't know. I don't know what people know about and what people don't know about.
That's fair. I guess maybe another question I had for you, what's maybe because you give so much creativity to the user base, what's something that you would like to personally see made in either like a mod or like a map? Like, what is something like, oh, that'd be cool if somebody came up with that?
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of mod ideas. And in fact, once I'm done with 3D maps, that's going to be much of my focus. I will have a big plans for the modding system. And I want to see it expanded. I want to see mods become more integrated with the game. I have this dream for a world where you can't even tell if a feature is from a mod or part of the base game. It should be that seamlessly integrated.
Gotcha.
And I want to see a lot of the functionality we even have now moved into mods. And I want to see mods available to more than just members. I want to see them available for everyone and be, an integrated part of the game that people can. I mean, it's kind of taking customization to the next level, right? Because today, when you create a game, you have lots of customization options without mods, but it's still only things that I produce. Whereas to go entirely to the next level, if we have a whole bunch of mod creators writing code, there's going to be, an order of magnitude more customization options, which that's really exciting to me too, because then, people can surprise me with new features rather than me surprising the community.
Right. And giving them, again, like you've always seemed to do, is just more, tools to the creators inside of the game, which I think is, a big part of what you've obviously, like we've said multiple times now, a big part of Warzone.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to ask you a question about idle because, and this is just, negativity that I've probably heard, but there's a lot of talk around, idle being the money maker for you. But after watching in the last live stream, I saw you click on the draft army like all of us do when we see it in the map, right? Like I saw you do it and I was like, he's actually like, he's playing the game just like everybody else is. So like how much do you really enjoy idle, and what are other idle games you play if that's the case?
Yeah, I definitely enjoy idle, and I've played a whole bunch of idle games, and I like a lot of them. And I've always wanted to make one. I've been playing them for so many years now. I got started back in the day with Clicker Heroes and
nice.
I can't Ad Cap. What is it? Those are kind of the old school ones, and Cookie Clicker and all that stuff that kind of got me into the genre. And I've played a whole bunch over the years, and every time I play them, I think, man, this is so much fun. I just can't wait to get back, get more stuff, and reinvest it. And so I finally had the idea I've been wanting to make one. I finally had the idea to use Warzone maps, which again comes back to the community has created all these amazing maps for Warzone. I'm like, hey, I could just turn those into an idle level. And really the hard part was figuring out the algorithm and generating levels. Once I figured that out, the rest of the game just kind of came together around that. And yeah, I do really enjoy it. And I know you mentioned there's some negativity around it, and I think some of that comes from the fact that anytime you make a game or a community, or you take a community and you add a second game onto it, there's
Sure.
going to be some people that like the first game. There's going to be some people that like the second game, and there's going to be some people that like
Mm,
both. And you have one community just kind of bolted together with two games. Yeah, you're going to see some negativity both ways, but that's totally okay. There's plenty of people that like idle but not classic too. It's
mm.
just we kind of have two communities bolted together, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Right. Right. And I think that's, I mean, in a way, with the VR capabilities that that you're potentially going to be having in the future for Warzone, it's almost this whole other animal that could come to be, right? Another
Yeah,
sense of another community. And as I've been going through these interviews and talking to all these different people, you have single player community, you have a diplomacy community, you have a competitive community, you have this idle community, and with all of these different groups, how do you find is the best way to sort of manage trying to make all of them as happy as possible, but maybe just maintaining your overall even just vision for the game.
yeah, that is a challenge. And part of Warzone's probably biggest challenge, in my opinion, is that I'm just stretched so thin because
Mm,
I have, as you said, all these different communities. They all want me to code a feature for them.
mm-hmm.
And then some people get really angry when I can't drop everything to work on their feature. But it's just par for the territory. Everybody's got their own things, and
Sure.
so it is a challenge. And really, I just got to do the best I can. I just got to figure out what increases the maximum enjoyment for the maximum number of people. That's my goal.
Yeah. No, I mean that makes sense from that perspective. What tell me a little bit about your thoughts. Sort of, I'm all over the place, but I think that's just how I tend to interview. Uh, when I think about these different communities, I've been learning so much more about the competitive community, and I think that's a really big part of the player base that's inside of Warzone that I more than I even
Mm-hmm.
realize. What are your thoughts as far as clan wars or even clan league or some of the tournaments? Have you participated in any, or what is your level? Because I know you still play competitive. You're not much of a Diplo player. I think I remember you saying.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I play 1v1s multiple every day. I mean, that's my favorite
Okay.
way to play Warzone. I'm not a big Diplo player. I don't play a lot of single player classic anymore.
Okay.
Those things don't single player classic to me is kind of boring at this point. But
Gotcha.
multiplayer is really fun, and actually, I think it's pretty amazing that I've been making this game for 14 years, and
Right.
still to this day, I love playing multiplayer games. And I don't think a lot of game makers can say that. Like, I feel like most
Sure.
people that work on the same thing over and over tend to get bored of it, but it's still totally fun for me. I play quick matches every day. And I like, that's the way I like to play is competitive 1v1s just against other people and usually quick games. I think that's the bread
Yeah.
and butter. And those
Mm.
are the most popular games in Warzone when I look at the stats, like Small Earth,
Okay.
1v1, auto dist, and manual dist are the two most popular
Most
templates.
played.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting. So I guess there's been just staying on the competitive subject because I know that I have a fair amount of listeners that come from that background. What would you say has really stood out to you, from all of the player made leagues and cups and all of those things? Is there anything that you've competed in that you felt was kind of the premier league of all of them? Do you feel that Clan Wars is currently in that spot, or is there something else that you feel is sort of holds that position for competitive Warzone?
Yeah, I mean, I see. Clan League is very popular for the 1% of the most elite players. Like that's kind of what they flock to.
Mm,
I haven't participated in Clan League particularly, mostly because I don't want to join one of the clans because I want to stay kind of neutral. So I kind of just made my own
gotcha.
little clan, and we're not super
Sure.
competitive, but so I haven't participated in them directly, but I definitely love to see that. I love to go in and watch the top games and analyze the high strategy. To me, that's really fun.
Mm,
But I don't participate in the super high level myself. I'll play in tournaments and I used to play in the ladder a lot, so I'll do that
okay.
stuff. But I don't go to the high end stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw that you had placed first in the 1v1 ladder.
Yeah.
Not gonna, is that did that take a lot of work to get to that point, or was that
Um,
pretty,
I mean, I don't know how much work it was. I played in all the first like, several seasons. I think it was less competitive back then. So I don't know if I could
okay.
win a season now, but I think I won like season 4. And that always tends to be
Okay.
how a new feature starts, right? When it's brand new,
Sure.
people are still discovering it, people are still figuring it out. And so I was lucky to get a season win in back when they were a little bit easier. So I don't know if I could do that today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen some of these guys. They're just so skilled,
Yeah,
and
absolutely. People are
they
amazing.
spend a lot of time
sometimes
playing the
people
game.
sometimes people ask me, "Do you ever lose your game?" And I'm like, "Of course." There's some people out there that are ridiculously good. My girlfriend has a niece, and she's like, "How can you lose your own game?" She just like, can't understand that.
That's so great. And obviously you've probably got so many stories. And after 14 years with this game, which probably sounds crazy to say out loud, what are some of your favorite memories that you could share, as a whole, for Warzone?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the most fun times are always launching a new feature and seeing people
Mm,
experience it. And I've been lucky enough to do that pretty much continuously. I work on a very short iterations time. I try to do an update every 3 weeks, although normally I think the average is much higher than that. But the bigger the feature, the more fun it is. So like, releasing Idle was a lot of fun to see people tackle that for the first
mm.
time. Doing the big Warzone update when we switched over to Unity, that was a lot of fun just to see everyone experience all those new features. Quick match was new, mods were new, commerce games and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's really fun for me to launch a new feature and just see everyone dive into it and read the feedback.
It's great. I think just some of the memories that I've made, even playing with my friends and meeting new people on here, and the stories that have been coming out of it, and talking to all these people, I think I can speak for the whole community and say thanks, for these last 14 years. And we're looking forward to, the future years of Warzone and all the new things that are coming out. So thank you for making it. And, thank you for being on the podcast with me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you everyone in the community for enjoying the game. I'm glad everyone enjoys it, and I'm glad to be here.
Great. Well, thank you all for listening, and we will definitely be keeping you guys posted as we continue to interview more people inside of Warzone. Feel free to check out Warzone if you haven't already at www.warzone.com. And hopefully, we'll find you in the game and join us for the next episode. Thanks for listening, everybody.